Hey everybody, it's Ramsey again. In this video, I'm going to show you two things. Number one is an awesome cookie hack that can help you reshape any wonky cookie that comes out of the oven. Maybe it's spread a little bit or one of the edges is a little misshapen. And I'm also going to show you how you can use that specific cookie hack and turn it into a beautiful cookie design using a special technique. So first, I'm going to show you how to shape up those rigid cookies that come out a little misshapen. As you can see, this square right here, the edges aren't too sharp. So what you can do is take a zester or a microplane and just with light pressure, you don't want to use a whole lot of pressure here because the cookie is still kind of delicate even after it cools, and definitely wait until it cools to do this step so it's a little bit more easily handled. But you're just going to go around the edges and shape it up, zest it up, and make those edges a little bit more sharp. As you can see, it's turning this square. It's taken all of those rigid edges and parts that were sticking out. It's zesting them down so they're a little sharper and more even. And this works, it works really well, obviously, on square cookies, round cookies, any cookie that has like a straight edge. It's easy to zest those down. It's a little harder to zest down things like plaques and lettered cookies, those sorts of things. But it's still possible to get in there as long as it's a portion of the cookie that you can reach easily with the zester. Again, wait until the cookie has fully cooled down before you attempt this step. Otherwise, it's just going to crumble in your hands. And as you can see, I'm letting all of my cookie zest or cookie crumbles, cookie dust, if you will, I'm letting them all fall just on a cookie sheet that has a piece of parchment paper on it. And this is actually the exact cookie sheet that I baked my cookies on. So you don't have to like set up anything extra for this. You've got your supplies already going. Just grab the zester once your cookies have cooled. And as you can see, there is a mountain of cookie dust, cookie crumbles building up there, and that is going to turn into some magic right here. Now, this is all of the zest from my cookies. My cookies are beautifully shaped. They have sharp edges right now. And this is what has fallen off from the zester after doing that. You can use this to create something called cookie moss, and it's super popular around Easter and springtime to use in bunny sets or floral sets, that sort of thing. So what I'm doing here, I split my mountain of cookie dust into two groups because I want to dye it two different greens. I'm going to use avocado for this first set. And as you can see, I put a glove on for this step because your fingers will be forever green if you don't. So that's the reason I'm putting a glove on here, to just kind of protect my hands and the cookie crumbs as well. But you just kind of have to add in little dots of food coloring in, varied amounts throughout the process. You squirt a little food coloring down, and then you kind of knead and massage the cookie crumbs or the gel into the cookie crumbs. And as you can see, it's getting incorporated and coloring those crumbs. The next pile, I'm gonna go for a leafy green color, and like I said, you can use any colors you want here of green, any shade of greens. You can just use one shade if you want, but I like to use two different shades of green. It just gives it a little bit more depth when it has multiple shades of cookie crumbles in that moss, incorporated in the moss. So it's the exact same process here, kneading that food gel into the cookie dust. And then you're going to bring the two shades of green together and create one big pile of cookie moss. This is just the way that I like to do it. Some people mix it together in like Ziploc bags over, you know, a cookie sheet and parchment paper. I like doing it this way just because it's almost therapeutic and satisfying as it kind of crumbles through your fingers and turns the color, that beautiful mossy color. It's just the way I like to do it. So I'm going to set the cookie moss aside for now and start outlining and flooding these little bunny cookies that the cookie moss is going to go on top of. And I'm using a thick toothpaste icing here to not only outline but to flood these bunny cookies with as well. I don't want to use a thin flood icing as the base here because once that cookie moss goes on top, it's going to put some extra weight down on top of that base icing, and it's more likely to overflow on the edges of the bunny. So that's why I like to use a thicker icing here as the base before I add the cookie moss on top, just so it's a little bit more stable to hold on to that weight and keep the shape of the bunny. And you don't even, this flood does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be super even because remember that moss is going to go on top of it and kind of hide that base icing. So this is right after I flooded all the bunnies. They really don't have any time to set or dry. You don't need it to they don't need to do that. You just start taking your cookie moss and kind of piling it on top of the flooded bunnies. And then you kind of scoot, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but you kind of very lightly use your finger to disperse and scoot the cookie moss across the surface of the bunny. You don't want to press too hard because remember your icing is still wet. But you did use, you know, or I used a thicker toothpaste icing here underneath, so it's going to let you scoot it a little better than if it was that runny icing underneath. So you just kind of very lightly disperse and pat, disperse and pat. It's kind of a pattern. You sprinkle it on and then just disperse it, like scoot it to the edges and just kind of pat and disperse at the same time. Sorry, I just said pat and disperse like 10,000 times, but it's a pattern, pat and disperse. And it's real simple. Like I said, just make sure you don't press too hard and just cover the little sections. You might have to go over it once or twice with a few handfuls of that cookie moss and just cover all of the areas with your over the bunny, and you'll create such a cute little cookie moss effect. And then once you're satisfied with all the moss coverage on your bunnies, just set them aside and let them dry as normal. And you can leave them as is. They're super cute and fun like that. Or you can go in and add some cute embellishments on them like I've done with this fun Easter bunny set. I hope you have fun making cookie moss yourself. Happy spring!